Hey guys, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path. Here we are getting ready for another trip. Today's trip, we're going back to Yarrabulla Creek. I'm just on the SEC track here, just getting ready to air down. Hopefully the audio is coming through on this. So yeah, just getting ready to air down. We'll go back to probably 24 PSI on the rear and probably 20 on the front. If you follow the channel, you know we had 2 or 3 goes at this last year. The weather wasn't conducive. Track was very soft. So we'll see how we go today. It's been sort of dry. This is one of those tracks that when it's dry, it's almost an easy drive. But if it's had some rain and it's gotten soft, it gets very difficult. Solo today. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, really looking forward to giving this one another go, and we'll see what the track conditions are like today. So yeah, just at the start of the SEC track, you can probably see the car there behind me, just south of Myrtleford. There's the SEC track behind me now, so we're heading down the SEC track, couple of Ks, and then we're going to start Yarrabulla Creek, and we'll see what the conditions are like. Cracking day. It's about 8:30 in the morning. Couple of cows in the paddock there behind us, so yeah, looking forward to this one. And cool thing about this trip today is this was actually the very first trip I ever filmed for the channel. Hopefully today I'll do a better job filming it than I did back then, maybe learn something in the last year or two, and I'll show you a bit more of this track with some better quality footage and better editing than we did way back then. So anyway, looking forward to it guys, let's get into it.
Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path. Now, let me give you a quick rundown on the plan for today. Today was going to be the revisit, the go back, the redo, the final completion of Yarrabulla Creek track. You know, we had a couple of goes at that last year and we didn't quite get there. So we start here on River Road, just south of, or Buffalo River Road, just south of Lake Buffalo. At the start of the SEC track to air down. Work our way through the SEC track down to where I put this flag here. It's not marked on any of these maps. This is where the Yarrabulla Creek track is. It parallels the creek here and then joins up with this section of it and then ultimately joins up back on the Yarrabuck track and then continues south from there. So that was the plan. We're going to take that and then go back to Selwyn. Didn't happen. Lots of forestry activity in here at the time of this trip, so we'll have to go back another time. So instead, we took the SEC track. This is a really nice drive, and we took Goldie Spur all the way along here. Goldie Spur parallels along the south side of Mount Buffalo, which is a really nice drive, very scenic. I have driven Goldie Spur a couple of times before, but at night. So I think this is actually the first time I've driven Goldie Spur during the day, so it was good fun. And I was going to just take the Yarrabuck track and, you know, start from here. As you'll see in the video, got to the Yarrabuck track and that was closed for forestry work as well. So through here. So really didn't have any other option. We continue out on Goldie Spur track to the Buckland Valley, to Buckland Valley Road. Head down the road here to our next option, which is the Scotchman Creek track, where I've got this flag here. Take that in here. Because I'm by myself, I had the time to sort of take a few side trips, so I headed in the Wilson Creek track here to the Miners Right Old Town site to check that out, and then continued on Scotchman Creek track where it joins onto the Buffalo Range track. Buffalo Range track is what you see on the thumbnail. It may or may not be the longest, or one of the longest Ridgeline tracks in the high country. This whole track through here, normally we come up through here and this is all Ridgeline driving right through here. It's quite a spectacular drive actually, and not that difficult as you can tell. So highly recommend this to anyone. So yeah, onto the Buffalo Range track, follow that south down here past Twin Creeks, past the Schultz track, works its way around here to what I call the Selwyn Five Ways. Now I was going to go to the summit, which is this track around here, and then there's a little track up to the summit, but that was closed. as well. So today's video ends at the helipad, and there's been some changes there as well. So it's all happening in this part of the high country. I won't say any more than that at this time. Love to know if you guys like these intros. They're a bit longer when I do them this way, but a lot of people seem to like them. So let me know in the comments down below, and let's get into the main video. So yeah, you've seen the SEC track before. I don't think I dropped too much footage in this particular video. You're all familiar probably. It starts off pretty gentle. It's a nice easy way to get into this part of the high country, coming off the Buffalo River Road there. It's not too long, and this initial section climbs up the side of the hill, and you've got a decent drop off on one side, but really this is pretty much a two-wheel drive road, and in good condition basically all the way through. So yeah, without taking too long at all, we're following along the power lines there, hence the name of this track, the SEC track. Undoubtedly originally cut in to access the towers there for maintenance. Now from this track you've got views to the north there to the Buffalo Range and the backside of Mount Buffalo in particular. Really nice time of the morning. As you heard me say, it's about 8:30, pushing towards 9 o'clock probably by this point. Sun's up and blue skies and sunshine. So this was in March, I'm pretty sure, when this was filmed, and you just saw back there we just passed the end of the Mount Buggery track. That is still marked, I think, as a difficult track. I've driven that a couple of times, and at those times it wasn't what I would have said was a difficult track, but tracks change, so we might have to check that one out again sometime. Last time I drove it I think we came up on the Durling track. Nice little section there with the track cut in, and it does get pretty narrow. And look, before too long we're here down at the start of the Yarrabulla Creek track, which to those of you who saw the videos from last year, this will look kind of familiar, but then not familiar at the same time, because look what's going on. Well guys, Yarrabulla Creek track I think is never going to be quite the same. Just rocked up here. As you can see, it is currently closed. Forestry works in progress, and let me just move the camera, take you have a look. Like, they are building a road here. Like seriously, you know, gone are the bog holes that were on this entry track here. Yeah, who knows when this is going to reopen. So we're going to need a plan B for today. I don't know what that's going to be. Anyway, let's find out. So having taken some time to consult the maps and explore our options there, we have decided that really to head in the general direction of Selwyn still, our only option is to take the Goldie Spur track and follow that along the south side of Mount Buffalo, and then hopefully we can jump on the Yarrabuck track, which is what the Yarrabulla Creek track actually joins onto, just a few k's sort of in. So yeah, that's the thought process. As you can see there on the screen, Yarrabulla Creek track to Lake Buffalo on the left, so that is actually named that, which is what we call the other one the same name. It's kind of a continuation, so that takes you up beside Lake Buffalo, which is a great spot to stop and air down and come in that back way if you so desire. It just takes a little bit longer than the bitumen. And this is Goldie Spur straight ahead. As you can see, on the other side of the valley from the SEC track, really nice track cut into the hill. Some of these sections are in a little bit of shade this time of the morning with the sun sort of just poking up over the hills, but yeah, it does sort of hit you when you come around those corners sometimes. And look, before too long, here we are, climbed up with a great view out across the valley, notwithstanding the big metal spiders carrying the power lines.
Part way along Goldie Spur track, just pulled off here. Probably didn't pull off quite as far as I could have. That's the rest of Goldie Spur, so we're going to head up to the Yarrabuck track, which is the other end. But check out this view. This is why I come to the high country. Not even all the way there yet. So down there is the bottom end of the SEC Goldie Spur track. You can see the SEC track sort of wending its way there. And over the other side of those hills is Lake Buffalo and Myrtleford. Cracking day, blue skies, sun shining, looking forward to it.
So after that quick stop there, just to take in the view and enjoy it, we're continuing east. That's Buffalo off to the left there, along Goldie Spur track here. And as I said, like the SEC track, this is a pretty easy drive. It's marked on the HEMAs as a medium grade track. I guess possibly that might be because it does have a very steep drop off on one side, but it's certainly not a difficult drive. So another quick stop.
Here we are partway along Goldie Spur track, and I have to say that this affords without question some of the best views you're going to get of the south side of Mount Buffalo and the Buffalo Range. Just amazing. I really don't think capturing it on the camera here is probably doing it any justice at all. Scale's just amazing, just awesome to see this side of Buffalo, and you're so close to it. Again, the camera's probably not showing that, but yeah, very, very close. Just pulled over on the side of the track here. Goldie Spur's a pretty easy drive, so look, anyone with an all-wheel drive and some decent tyres could actually drive this track.
After that quick stop there, continuing on along Goldie Spur, as I said, not a difficult track, but does get narrow in sections. A little bit of a side track there on the left, and I did sort of pause and look at that. Really wasn't too sure where it went, so again, another opportunity here to just take in that view. Cracking spot. Did decide, because I didn't really know what my plan was going to be, I thought I need to get into the main part of the high country. We'll do that little side trip track another time, not for today, as the saying goes. Gives me an excuse to come back along this track. Yeah, look, it was a really enjoyable drive along Goldie Spur here. As I said, I've only done it at night in the past. Come along here on the way back from trips, and it had been sort of reasonably late by the time we got here, and either took this as a shortcut from the Buckland Valley back home or vice versa. Now here we're coming up on the start of the northern end of the Yarrabuck track, and I saw that bulldozer there and I was afraid of what I was going to find, and I should have been, because here we are. The Yarrabuck track is closed as well for forestry work. It does look like people have been driving around there, but look, it's clearly closed. And I could actually hear the guys chatting on the radio, so they were definitely actively working up in there. So much for plan B. So plan C is really to, well, take the rest of Goldie Spur down to Buckland Valley Road, because I really didn't have too many options at this point. That's about 6-7 k's, I believe, from here, and then take the next track I could, which was going to be Scotsman Creek track, that would take me up to Buffalo Range track, and then let me still head up towards Selwyn, because I was really hoping to get up to the Selwyn summit. I haven't been up there for a little while, and it's a magic spot to visit. So that's exactly what we did. It's all pretty much downhill from here. You can see the Buckland Valley up ahead there. A lot of cracking campsites along Buckland River Road, right on the river there, heaps of them. General rule of thumb is the further down the road, the more south you get, the less people there are at the campsites. This track on this side, Goldie Spur, is like a lot of those tracks in the high country. You don't get too far without the obligatory 180 degree switchback. And while it's a little bit wider than some of the early sections of Goldie Spur, there's still that pretty steep drop off on the side as well. But yeah, if you're out and about on the weekends and you're looking for a track to drive and you don't want to do anything too crazy adventurous, Goldie Spur track running, and then the SEC track running between Buffalo River Road and Buckland Valley Road. Really nice drive, really scenic, and not too difficult at all. Long as you don't mind drop-offs on the side of the track that you're driving on. Another one of those, well, this is probably almost more than a 180 degree switchback. And the river's actually down in the bottom of the valley there. And it's really just a few minutes from there and you find yourself passing a few houses. There's an established little residential area down the bottom here near the Buckland Bridge, and that's where Goldie Spur track comes out back onto the bitumen just at the Buckland Bridge, which has been upgraded in the last few years. And southbound from there, it's that's pretty much where the bitumen ends. So it's sort of gravel road from there, so we didn't need to air back up or anything. And it was really just a couple of k's on the gravel road, and here we were at the start of the Yarrabulla Creek track. Fortunately, this one was not closed, so I'd never driven this track before. Marked on the HEMA as an easy track. I was keen to get in and have a crack and try it out. And when looking it up, I did notice the little side track to Miners Right, the old town site, and I thought, well, I might check that out and just see if there is anything to see there. You never know. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. Very easy drive at the start here. You can see this is basically a road. It's even got the little white posts. So made some good time here at the start. And we've sort of done away with those big drop-offs. And it does parallel along the creek here as well, hence the name of the track, and really just seemed to take a couple of minutes. It was about 3 k's in and we got to the Wilson Creek track. Here we are. So there's a copy of that up on the screen now. Just double checking the map to make sure I was where I thought I was, and then we decided to head down here and check it out. It's only a little short 2 kilometre track, so not a long side track. Like a lot of places in the high country, you'll find cattle grazing just about anywhere. So this is not in the national park, which is why there are cattle grazing here. They seem pretty used to cars, these ones, and some of them, barely moved. Much like the Yarrabulla Creek track, this track started off pretty easy. And keeping in mind, when I came through here, it was summer. There were a few sections like this one here. I think in winter this would be a bit of a different ball game. It's a little bit wet and soft, and there'd been no recent rain. But yeah, even at the moment, it was wet and soft coming through there. A little bit of wheel spin to just get a bit of traction on the way out of there. And and as we're getting close to the end of the track, you can see decently rutted. So again, clearly this ground gets pretty soft when there's a bit of rain around. And I think getting in and out of here in winter, because this area is not seasonally closed, I think it'd be a very different thing getting in and out of here in winter. And we're actually just at the end of the track, pulling into this clearing here. So there's not a huge area here. There's a little bit of an open area. Now I did pull up and get out of the car and have a bit of a look around. Those of you with very, very sharp eyes, if you watch the review video I did on the emu wing, this is where I filmed that. So it gives you some idea of the lead time, because that was quite a few videos ago now. But it was here at this little clearing here where I actually filmed the emu wings review video. So I wasn't able to find any evidence of structures or anything. They were probably wooden structures back in the day and long gone with the number of bushfires that have been through this area over the last years. So I turned around and headed out for the short 2 kilometre journey. So kept this footage in on the way out. I don't normally show footage both ways, but I think coming back this way it showed the ruts a little better. And I have been sort of experimenting a little bit with different camera mounts to mix that up a little bit, and I thought I'd try a front side mount going through the soft muddy section here that we went through on the way in. And ultimately just took that a little bit slow. Just not getting the traction to pull forward. Gave it a little bit of a reverse and another go forward and still weren't quite making it, but was able to reverse out. And it didn't need a lot of momentum, just a little bit of momentum there to work its way through and bounce back up and out. One of those times though, I was certainly glad to have the Max Trax on the roof. I'm by myself, I've got no one with me. If I really was stuck there, I mean, I've got the winch as well. You know, having those sort of recovery aids with you when you're solo just gives you peace of mind. It's like, it's not a problem. If we're stuck, we'll get out of it. Little concerning at the moment. I'm doing a little bit of tripping around in the 76, and I still don't have any of that stuff. So I try and go with people who have that. When at least you've got 2 vehicles, even if you don't have a winch, if you've got a recovery strap, you can help each other out. So from there, we're pushing basically southwest on the Scotchman Creek track, heading up to the Buffalo Range track. So it's a really long, steady, gentle climb, about 7 k's from here up to the Buffalo Range track. Little stream there, inlet that feeds down into the Scotchman Creek. And yeah, it takes its sweet time, this track, so not super steep. There's the odd little climb like this, but as you can see, traction's good. Not super steep, probably steeper than it looks on camera, but not super steep, just long, steady climbs like this. As you work your way up here, you get a little bit higher, you do find that drop off sort of reappears. Common to a lot of high country tracks. This section was reasonably steep, but really not an issue because traction was so good. This looks like it's been graded in the last year or so and wasn't remotely soft. Once you get up to a certain point, you're sort of on a ridgeline track here, heading up to Buffalo Range. So I was chuffed to do this track again when we get up here onto the Buffalo Range track, because it's been a little while since I've done it and I'd forgotten just how cool it is. As the thumbnail said, I think it's probably one of the longest ridgeline tracks in the high country anywhere, and it's not talked about a lot. but the views are as good, if not better, than some of the big name tracks that people will talk about a whole lot, in my opinion. So let's see what you guys think when we get there. Not surprisingly, there's the odd hump along the track. What goes up must come down. Yeah, at this point we're really working along that ridge to join the next run of the hills, which you can see just up ahead there. And it was such a cracking day to be out and about when I did this trip. I did have somebody lined up to come with me, and unfortunately he got called into work at the 11th hour, which was a real shame. We'll still try and do another trip some other time. I think I actually had 2 or 3 people lined up for this, and everybody sort of cancelled for various reasons and ended up being a solo day out, but I don't mind that. Nice steady climb here. This section was reasonably steep, and as I said, if you're watching it on video and it looks like it could be steep, it was steep, but just slow and steady. You don't have to go crazy, spin the wheels or get heaps of momentum or anything. Just let the car do the work and drive your way up it. It's always nice, these ridgeline tracks. You get a lot of vision ahead of you of where the track's actually going. A little bit of a climb up here. Even on these fairly level tracks, it's surprising when you get a shot like this where you can see the wheels, how much the suspension's actually still working, and how much that gap between the guard and the top of the tyre actually does open and close. Even on something that's not really a difficult track, you sort of think it's generally fairly flat. Something will be interesting to get some footage like that on the 76 to see, being a solid axle, does it move a similar amount or not? So as you just saw on the screen there, we've reached the end of the Scotchman Creek track, and now we're on the Buffalo Range track. This section I think is about 15 k's from here to Mt Selwyn, and it's pretty much ridgeline surfing the whole way. There's a few sections like this where you don't have huge views. You're obviously still up on a ridge here, but there's a lot of trees relatively close by. After this initial section, which we're nearly through already, you're pretty much up on top of ridges with massive views for the whole rest of this track. It really is quite an amazing track, and as I say, I've forgotten how good it was. So you can see here, you know, this section through here, you've got a little bit of a glimpse there of some of those views, and you can see a lot more, of course, than the camera will show you through these sorts of sections. But yeah, it's been relatively recently graded through here as well, and trees are still recovering from those 2019 fires, which, you know, the forest is probably a bit more open than it would have been some few years ago prior to those large fires coming through. So another nice open section here where you can see the track ahead opening up. And this whole track through here is in really good condition. It's not a difficult drive by any stretch of the imagination. So again, it's another one that I probably recommend. You know, it's funny, today when I headed out on this trip, I was expecting to do Yarrabulla Creek. I was expecting a challenge, the river crossing, some rock steps, some big hills, some ruts. and I was expecting to get a challenge. I ended up doing a pretty nice drive in the country, and it was just so enjoyable. It really was. Coming up here, you can see the main track sort of heads around to the right, and there's sort of an extra track. I wasn't sure if it was an official track or not, that heads up to the top of the hill there. We might do that one next time. Again, that was actually pretty steep. It looked a bit loose, so I did decide that one was not for today. We'd stick on the main track. Hard to tell whether that's been graded. It probably has, so it might be an official sort of bypass track or something, I'm not sure. Some cracking views from the main track though along here off to the right hand side there, and that's the thing, as this track works its way along the range here, or along the ridgeline, it moves from left to right, and you get some surprisingly narrow sections of ridgeline track as well. So you can see here that working along this ridge here, quite a long straight section of ridgeline, and it does fall off fairly sharply to both sides. And a lot of this track through here is like this. So as I said, you know, everybody sort of raves about Blue Rag as a great ridgeline track, and look, it is, but it's not nearly as long as this. And this has probably got more ups and downs than Blue Rag as well, and particularly if, like most people, you're only driving the first part of Blue Rag, like, you know, 5Ks or whatever it is to the trig point, which is what most people do. Check out this view here. You can see straight ahead, see where that track goes over that hill in the foreground, down the other side, and then you can see the next hill where the track continues. Like, how awesome is that? You come around here and you can see exactly where you're going to be going. There's not a lot of places in the high country where you can sort of see your track that far ahead and really get a good sense of what's up ahead and what's coming. This descent here, I do remember, it certainly felt a lot steeper than it looks on camera. This did feel quite steep. Didn't feel at any time that it was dangerous. The traction was really good. Just first gear, low range, and a little bit of braking, because the Padge doesn't have the lowest of first gear, low range. So again, this is the kind of thing I'm really keen to have a crack at in the 76 and see if I need to use the brakes at all, because the low gearing on that is a lot lower. So yeah, look, not too long, we're heading up the next hill. This is a bit open, bit looser. The track's a little less well defined here. But again, it wasn't anything that was going to cause you grief or problems. And these ridge tops are just so open, you tended to get views both sides of the track. And you can see a little bit of that in the frame of the GoPro camera, but it's really not doing it justice. And as I said, these tracks are actually not seasonally closed, so you can get out and enjoy these and do this trip during the winter months. I don't know if I'd want to do it in the rain. Don't know about that, but yeah, we've just had a spell of a couple of really clear days. So at the moment, something like this would be a lot of fun. I think you'd really enjoy it. So keep it in mind as an option, and that's assuming that forestry or someone's not in there and the track's not shut for another reason. Now, I did look online as best I could to try and find out about track closures, but there was nothing I could find. I don't know whether I missed it or it simply wasn't publicised on any websites that I could find. But that's the thing, you know, you might have a plan, but you don't have to necessarily stick to it. So you can see here a couple of cars just up ahead of me that I've just caught up to. They're just climbing up that next big long hill. You can see a little bit of dust coming off their wheels there. And they're actually a really long way away from me at this point. They really are. Probably had no idea I was even behind them at this point. Just a huge, big open valley that you sort of go down and across, but stay on the ridge the whole time. You can sort of see just how far that is, perhaps in that camera view there. And then you've got this cracking view around to the sides, looking across the tops of the high country. Just after I finished filming this little bit here too, guy that lives local in the area, one of the fireys that actually works up here, he was up here on his day off in his on his motorbike. Now, I've been saying these tracks are not difficult. Now, I would say they're not difficult in a car. When you've got four wheels on the ground, it's very stable. I don't think I would want to tackle stuff like this on a two-wheel motorcycle where you don't have the benefit of that stability and you're trying to slow down. You've only really got one wheel that's braking you as you're trying to go down and slow down. So, yeah, hats off. Absolutely. And that's part of the fun too, getting out on the tracks, the people you meet. And as I said, you've been saying, you can see here, this is quite an easy drive through here. It's a nice defined track. Again, just tried a little bit with the different camera views here. Probably don't always do enough of this. When I've got other people on the trips with me, I don't like to hold them up and pull up and say, hey, I've got to change my cameras. I have to stop often enough as it is to change batteries in the GoPro. That's about an every 20 minutes sort of thing. Sometimes the others on the trip stop, sometimes they keep going, and I really don't mind either way. Happy for everybody to have their own trip and enjoy it the way that works for them. And this is another nice, long, steady climb here, as you just saw. And yeah, I just thought I'd film this from the back and so you can see what this climb was like from a little bit of a different perspective. Probably had a little bit more of a down angle on that camera than's ideal. And just getting to the top here, pretty narrow ridgeline along the top of this hill. So this is just coming up to where you saw those other cars in the footage I took with the Sony, where they've just climbed up. That's where we are now. And you really do feel like you're up on the roof of the world up here. Bit of a natural stopping spot just here. Just to pull up and enjoy the view. And I took a couple of still photos. I think the thumbnail photo might have been taken right there, I think. Where you can see here this track continues and you can just make it out through the trees there, the next hill, and then the ridge, and then the hill after that. Like, just amazing when you can see how much of the track is ahead of you. And decided to pull up and just show you. You can see the ridgeline track we've come along there. So that's the track we've driven along the tops of those ridgelines down that hill, and then it's come up the hill on this side, which you can't really quite see from here, and then wraps around and onto this next flat section of ridgeline track where we are now before the next valley and peak. So just trying to give you guys a bit of a sense of this track. Just feels huge when you're up here. Like, it just feels really open and like you're in the middle of nowhere. It's just a really enjoyable track. And if you haven't done it, I definitely recommend you get out there and have a crack, because hopefully you can see from this footage on this video today, it's not a difficult track. And it gets you, it starts down at Goldie Spur if you're able to get on the Yarrabuck track down there. It gets you to Selwyn. There's a lot of options to get down from Selwyn. Even in winter, you can go down to the Buckland Valley, or you can go back down the other side towards Abbey Yard, and there's tracks open in both directions there. Another steady climb here. And yeah, as is often the case, these look super steep when viewed from a distance, but then you get onto them and they don't feel quite so steep. Still steep, don't get me wrong, but you know, not the kind of thing where you stop and think twice about whether you want to drive it. It's just, I think I was in second gear, low range, just nice and steady on the throttle, just to keep the wheels turning. Again, no need to try and get big momentum or anything to climb this stuff. Just nice and steady, second gear, low range, and let the car do the work. Before you know it, you're up on top of the ridge and enjoying another magnificent part of the high country like this. Again, look at that, you can see the track just opening up, running across these ridge lines in front of you. I was concerned when I was editing this that this was going to end up feeling a little bit repetitive, but it's just such an awesome part of the high country and such an awesome track. So again, I've pulled up here just to show you, because obviously when I've edited I've cut bits out. You can get a little bit of a glimpse there of how far we've come along those ridge lines from that hill in the distance, and obviously the other side all the way along there. And I still remember, I think the first time I drove this was late 2018 probably, and it was very different. Pre-bushfires back then, a lot more foliage. You couldn't see as much of the track back then, but certainly now and for the next couple of years, I think still you're going to enjoy these really open views throughout this section of track. I know I keep talking about the views, but I think this section of track, probably out of anywhere I've driven in the Vic High Country, probably has the most consistent views that you get to enjoy all the way along the track compared to anywhere. A lot of tracks will have sections where they have great views and then they'll close in and you'll get a little bit more of a technical section, and then you'll pop back out somewhere and you'll have some views again maybe. This track just seems to have views the whole way. Really does. And just a really enjoyable view, a really enjoyable drive. Love to hear in the comments down below from anyone who's driven this track and what your thoughts were. Am I just, raving on about nothing, or is this track as good as I'm saying it is? I'd be really interested to hear, because it's certainly one that I've enjoyed. And every time I finish it, I think, yeah, I'll have to do that again soon. And invariably, like this time, it's been nearly 3 years since I last drove this track. So 2021 was the last time, and I think it was very early in 2021, like 2nd of January or something. And it literally does just seem to keep going and going and going. So as you get towards the end of Buffalo Range track, the Twin Creek track, which comes up from the Mt Selwyn Road, which is also a track I've never driven, and that used to have a difficult rating on the HEMAs. It doesn't seem to have a rating currently, but that's what it used to have. So we might have to drive that sometime. Now I think we're just coming up on that just here. Yeah, so that's Twin Creek track on the left, where it joins on here to the Buffalo Range track. So yeah, I've never driven that track. We might have to do that sometime. So we follow this around to the right, and before too long, where the Schultz, that's literally a kilometre between those two, the Schultz track exits off, and if you take the Schultz track, that will take you back down to Buffalo River and Abayard Road. So obviously that's not where we were heading. So we're up on Mt Selwyn now, and this has changed so much from a few years ago, pre-bushfires. The bushfires did hit this area really, really hard, and since then forestry's been up here cleaning it up and tidying it up and making it safe so that the trees aren't going to fall down on people. But it's just a completely different feeling. This was almost like a little rainforest or something when I first came up here. And the first time I did come up here, it was actually in the snow. So you do get a bit of snow on Selwyn here from time to time. Now we're approaching here what I don't know if anyone else does, but I call it the Selwyn Five Ways, because you've got this track, you've got the helipad track, the Mt Selwyn Road, the track that takes you around to the Summit track and Walsh's track. There's a whole heap of them here. So if you come to this part, you do need to make sure you got a good map and you know exactly which track you're on. So this track takes you around to the south side of the Selwyn Summit, and then there's a track from there up to the summit, and that's where we were heading. But it was not to be. Again, no access, forestry work, track damage. So I thought, right, it's about lunchtime, headed up here to the helipad. Now if I can find the footage from when I drove this, I might drop that up in the top corner from when I did this last time. Yeah, I might drop that in the top corner if I can find that, and you can see the difference. And likewise, you used to come up here and there was a hill that you would drive up on top of that was a helipad on top, and it was open, and that's where the view was. It's not like that now. Forestry's come through here, flattened this whole area, created this massive open area here at the end. So I barely recognise this place from how it used to be. So I'm not sure on the reasoning for this, but maybe they needed an area for the trucks to turn around or something if they were carting wood out of here. I don't know. But it's not anything like what it used to be.
Quickly cooking up some lunch. Stopped here on Mt Selwyn. Not able to get to the summit. That's shut for maintenance. So just cooking up a quick hamburger for lunch. Keeping it pretty simple, solo trip this one. Add some greens in. These pre-done salad mixes are great. Find them really good for this sort of thing. Having some green stuff is kind of like our penance for eating the meat, I suppose. I think I've said before how hot this hyperflame cooker gets. Really damn hot. So Selwyn is changing markedly. There's a whole massive area here where there used to be a helipad. It's going to be more than a helipad now. It's all been cleared and levelled. The amount of work that's been done here is quite amazing. It really is. Cleared a heap of trees, flattened this out. The helipad used to be a little clearing on top of a rise, and yeah, now it's this massive cleared open area. So can't get to the Selwyn summit, which means my plan C of doing the Selwyn summit and then going down Water Spur to Humphrey River and doing the end of Humphrey River track that I've never done before, that's cancelled. So we had a plan A today, we had a plan B, then we had a plan C. Now we've got plan D. Yeah, it looked like earlier there might have been some weather coming in. I'm not sure about that now. Anyway, we'll have some lunch, and from here I think we'll head down one of the Buffalo West Branch, East Branch tracks, maybe maybe try something we haven't done before, and see how that pans out. Not a bad looking burger, if I do say so myself. So Selwyn Summit was closed. This is where the helipad used to be, and it used to be on top of a hill. As you can see, they've leveled and cleared this whole area, making this huge cleared area. And there's now an access track up onto this little hill here, which I've never seen before. Yeah, like you used to have the view from the helipad down at the Mt Selwyn Road, which you can see just down there. And this is where the view used to be between the trees here. But now it's just this massive cleared area. There's the track over there up to the Selwyn Summit. That one just behind those logs there. And that is currently closed due to track conditions, apparently. So no Selwyn Summit today. Yeah, so big changes up here. Anyway, just had lunch and figuring out where we're going from here. Let's do that.